Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. We have a super fun technique. This one doesn't take too many bits and pieces. You can use your scraps up. So using up our scrap pile always makes us happy, and it doesn't take too much time and leaves a pretty cool effect. Now for today, I'm going to be using some coloured cardstock. These are already cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I thought I would make a couple of guys cards for these ones, and so I'd picked out a couple of paper packs that would work well for that. Starting off super easy, I'm going to use some circles and some double-sided adhesive. Now you can use lots of different shapes, and I'll show you some different shapes, but also circles are just really nice and easy to start off with and show you to begin with. So I'm just going to go through, choose a few colours that I think are going to work nice together. These are going to be for guys cards, but I think it looks really nice when you include yellows and pinks and things like that. So I'm kind of not bothered about putting those colours in. I really love this colour combination. And 4 of these were from the same colour pack, so I know that they're going to match together as well. So that always helps me. Now here is the part where you can kind of do as you please. If you already have scraps, then they're probably already going to be cut up into strips or bits that you've cut off other things. They don't have to be straight, they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be the same. It's just really whatever you have. If you're cutting them up like me, something inside of me tells me I need to have them all nice and uniform. So I did one that is kind of nice and uniform and one that is a little bit wiggly as well. Then, when I am die cutting, I like to use Stick-It double-sided sheets. These are really, really nice, thin, double-sided adhesive sheets, which means that when it comes to die cutting, it's not going to kind of stick, and kind of you're going to have to kind of cut extra little bits out that didn't quite cut through properly, or run it several times through your die cutting machine. It should cut nice and clean the first time that you run it through. So I have put one sheet here on the front of my cardstock. Now the cardstock I chose to use is actually just the 300 GSM, which is roughly 110 pound. So it's a pretty heavy cardstock. You could definitely use something much thinner, and perhaps even something like copy paper would work well. I was just on a roll here, and clearly I was going with what was in front of me. So I just pulled back a little bit of the release paper from this one, and then no rhyme or reason, I just start popping the colours down, and these ones are a little bit longer than I need, but I quite like that because that way I can trim the edges and everything gets to be really nice and even. You could put these on a diagonal in case you were worried about getting them straight. I mean, you can put them any which way you please. This one here, I already had these from a leftover project, and I just kept all of the colours together. And these ones have like a wider end and then a skinnier end to them, and I just kind of alternate them so that they just go a little bit uneven all the way down. And then that way I have a nice panel that I can use this technique for as well. Then when it comes to cutting them, this is kind of a 2-for-1 technique because you can technically get 2 cards out of the one sheet of paper that you're doing. Obviously the thinner sheet I won't be able to, the little skinnier sheet that I did with those colours just here. But with the entire sheet that I covered, the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 one, I can easily get 2 cards out of this one for this technique. Now, all you have to do, as I said, I'm going to start with some circles. These are the Hero Arts Infinity die circles. These are just stacking circle dies, which are so handy to have in your stash. Probably one of my most used dies. Now, I was thinking about going small, medium, large circle, but just to keep everything completely easy, I'm just going to keep one of the same size circles and go 3 times up my piece of paper. I did use my 0 centered ruler. This is the Holtz design ruler, and this way I can roughly see that I'm in the middle. This is just because I was making 2 cards. You don't really have to be in the middle, but it is good to have all of your shapes lined up in a row going from top to bottom. So to get the spacing kind of right, I just put my first one there in the center, and then I place the die at the top. Pop a little bit of low tack tape there just so that it is nicely tacked in place, but I know it's not going to rip my cardstock. And then once I've got 2 done, I'm going to do the middle one, and this I just space evenly between the top and the bottom, just roughly. I don't like to measure things too much. I prefer to just eyeball them for card making, and usually it works out not too badly. So from here, once I have all of my circles cut out, it goes pretty fast from here. And now, just because I'm getting 2-for-1 cards, I'm going to cut this directly down the center of the circles. At this point, I'm not worried about how big each side of the cardstock is to the left and to the right. I just want to get as best I can down the middle of the circles. And that's kind of what I find the best if you have a symmetrical shape for this. So love hearts and triangles and stars, depending on what you have. You can still find a kind of line of symmetry down the middle, and that will work out the best for this technique. Then I'm just figuring out where these kind of all go to make sure that they line up with the patterned paper. So I want them to go like where they came from, so to speak. And then I find it easiest just with this technique to pop a little bit of low tack tape kind of across all 3 of them. So it just keeps everything in place. Now you can definitely just take each shape and cut it directly down the middle, but with circles that can be a little bit more difficult, so I wanted to make sure each of these circles was cut kind of in the same place, if that makes sense. Whereas if you have a heart, you're just going to go from the crease to the middle to the point to the bottom, right? So there's a really easy kind of center line to it, but I just find this easiest to kind of hold these together and hold them in place, and I can line it up with the edge of the cardstock that I have. Roll my cutter blade down, and then I just want to take out the circles from the low tack tape, and then I should have each one of my circles that is cut in half. I was just making sure I wasn't going to rip anything, so if you do it kind of delicately, because at this point we don't want to ruin anything at all. So all of my circles are nicely separated in half, and then it's just a matter of putting everything together. This is the easy part. I like to pop these up on foam tape. You most definitely do not have to do this at all, but I think the little bit of added dimension kind of adds something to it as well. And I am just going to kind of pop little bits of foam tape here, there, and everywhere, and I try and keep it as supported as possible. Just in case this card ends up going through the mail, often if I don't know if I'm giving the card like directly to the person, and my family often kind of, come and raid my stash, and whoever takes away all of my card stash, and they hand it on to friends and family who can give them out and things, because obviously I make a lot of cards and I like to just share them around. We may as well use them, and so I don't know what other people are going to do with them. So if I'm not sure that I'm handing it directly to the person, then I want to make sure that things are not going to get crushed if it goes through the mail or however they choose to deliver it to their recipient. So there you go, there is one card finished, and all you do is you kind of add your other half of your circles over to the opposite side of where they could fit in. So for this one, I decided to go a little bit skinnier just to show you. Now, I think this is my preference to have them off to the side rather than in the center like the first one, but I will just show you kind of a couple of them. As I said, I'll show you 4 different cards that I created, and you can just kind of see the technique for yourself, but it's really straightforward. It's a fun technique to do, and I think anyone could do this if you've got a couple of the right tools. Of course, I will have everything listed in the description box below this video. If you just click the little more button down underneath this video on YouTube, then you'll see a list of all the supplies of things that I have used. There's also a few more links down there that are really handy, especially if you would like to support my YouTube channel in a couple of other ways as well. But other than that, any information that you need, I also have a P.O Box, which I love receiving mail. This is one of the highlights of my week, going to check my P.O Box and finding cards from you. I appreciate all of the time and effort that it actually takes to get a card in the mail and sent off these days. Here in New Zealand, certainly, there seem to be less and less post offices, actual post offices and actual post boxes around the place. So sometimes you have to drive to find one. But here, anyway, I'm showing you the one that I did with hearts. This one is much easier because there's kind of a real center point with the hearts. But yeah, I think I prefer the one with the circles a little bit off to the left. Just to finish a few of these cards off, I am going to keep this extremely simple. This is how I like to kind of keep these cards, and it keeps the focus on that fun element that we have created in our card making. So I have all the birthday stamps here by Concord and 9th, which is an ultra favorite of mine. You've seen it so much, but it has such a good range of different sentiments. And I have just got the happy birthday one, and I'm going to use some VersaFine Clair. This is Rainforest. Just a nice dark green pigment ink. Pigment inks are going to stamp really beautifully. They are crisp stamping and really good color saturation. So I love the VersaFine Clair inks when I'm stamping kind of fine and delicate sentiments in particular. And in my opinion, you could pop any sentiments on these cards at all. They could be used for so many different occasions. I have a couple of the heart ones that I did here using the Spotlight Sayings stamp set, which is a great little stamp set. Again, a great range of sentiments, different kinds. And I'm going to kind of dress these up a little bit more than the first one. This one I have a little orange bow, which I'm going to pop in that center heart in the middle. As I said, I do want to keep these really, really plain and simple. I have glued this on with a little bit of liquid glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. It is a super strong hold glue, so I know that this isn't going to go anywhere. And then I have a few of these little glass domes. These little, they just are like clear little domes. There are 4 or 5 different sizes in here, and I love this one in particular because there is teeny tiny ones. There is such a good range of sizes, whereas usually you just kind of get all really big ones, it feels, or medium and big ones, but these ones are the perfect sizes. Now, I often get asked how I decide where I put all of the sequins or the anything that I choose to extra pop on like this, Nuvo drops or whatever it might be. But the answer is I just play around like this. I move them around, I play around, I see what I like the look of best, and then either once I get sick of moving them around or I think I found the right thing, then I glue them down and try not to think about it all over again. So once they go on and the glue is going to dry clear behind them, these just add that extra little touch. So this one I'm not going to add a bow at all. As I said, I'm keeping these super simple because I think the effect with the hearts is the center of attention for our cards that we've created today. But I hope that you have enjoyed this. I hope that this has given you some ideas on how you could use those items in your stash, particularly your scraps and some of those dies that are really handy and simple shapes. Look at that gorgeous dimension that this creates, and it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal, which is even better. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have enjoyed this video, then please feel free to leave me a comment down below. If you have any questions for me, leave a comment too, and I will do my best to get back to it as well. But other than that, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!